As an architect, it's common to design multiple options in early stage of the project to be able to compare the pro and con of the different options and give your clients the opportunity to choose. But if you use traditional BIM modeling tool like Archicad or Revit, it could be time consuming and you could not get easily the data out of your project to compare the different options. And now there is a new generation of tools that use the power of generative design like Dynamo and Grasshopper, but without the complexity, and that use AI to filter down many options and to get the data to be able to compare the option practically. I will present you in this video 3 tools that to me are the most promising for plan generation. They could be used for feasibility study, for massing design, or for plan generation. These tools are using AI to do plan generation, but they are doing it at a different scale. And the last tool is really incredible, so stay till the end of the video. So my name is Sebastian, I am an architect, and on that channel we are talking about AI in architecture and construction. If you want to learn more about it practically, which tool to use, to watch some demo or some interview of tool co-founder, please subscribe to this channel. If you want to find the best tool to use as an architect, I have a guide that I leave in the description. You can download it, it's for free. So let's dive in and see these 3 tools for AI plan generation. So the first tool of this series is Hektar. So we already talked about Hektar on that channel. I made an interview of Hektar CEO, and if you want to know more about what she said about why she created the software and so on, you could go to the link at the top of the screen. And now I just want to introduce you what is Hektar and how it is different from the 2 other tools that I'm going to show you. So Hektar is mainly a tool for feasibility study, targeted for architects, but also project owner who want to see what is possible to build in a given plot. And in Hektar, you can select different typologies. So if I go directly into the UI, so this typically when you create an account in Hektar, it's free to create an account. You have up to 3 projects where you can play with it. And if you like it, probably you will need to upgrade. But at the beginning, you don't need to pay, which I think is very useful. So there is basically 2 main typologies. So an example of the collective housing typology is that project. So you see it's very fast to see the project. Here I immediately can see in my browser what it's about. And here was one generation. So the scenario 8 between many scenario. So you see that the level of detail is quite important if you think about feasibility. Here we even have the split by typology of apartments that you want to build. And here you have some extra data, but for now, the extra data is in the premium version of the plan. So this is the collective housing typology. And as you see here, I have 8 options of different versions of this typology, and I can compare it. I can even see it as a graph. So to compare it, of course, some options are better on one side and less optimized for another thing. So you could decide what is the best one. And here you see a bit the parameters that was used for generation. So we have several options of how we define the build construction, the build volume, and so on. Sorry to interrupt you, but if you watch this video, probably you want to learn more about AI in architecture and construction. But often it's quite confusing to know what is possible, what tool to use, what are the main use cases, and so on. So recently, I released a 4-hour course that you can follow at your own pace with different modules from what is AI, what are the main use cases, how to use AI like ChatGPT to save time in your administrative and project management tasks, how to use AI to generate some image and rendering, and how to use AI to generate some plan and help you in your design process. If you want to join this course, I left a link in the description with a special promotion for my YouTube follower. But now let's go back to our topic. Here you have several options. So now I go back to the individual houses. So you can see with another example that it can also handle some small houses repartition in a plot. So basically it's always the same. You define the context, so the limit of the plot where you want to build, and depending of the surface, it generates an option. So of course, the option is not always perfect. It will not be the end of the story. Of course, you need to decide by yourself. Maybe use another tool, and for that, you can export two things. You can export the model itself, or you can export the scenario. So the scenario is basically the data associated with a given scenario, the surfaces, and so on. So here I can export in 3DM or OBJ format, so that you could re-import in your design software. So this is Hektar. My opinion about Hektar, it's that the design is well done. It's very clear. It's fast. There is a free version, so this is very good to test. But I think there is lacking maybe some possibilities to edit the generated design. Maybe for a smaller plot, it could be improved because me personally, I'm talking to architects who work on a small plot, and it's not that easy to use the generation in this aspect. Also, some remarks that people told me was to take into account the urban constraints. So if you need to have some offset from the boundary of the plot, for example. Of course, it depends of the country, but maybe it would be possible to add some rules to integrate it into the design generation. And finally, something that is missing, and I think it's really, really important, is the possibility to edit the generation afterwards, so to combine a generation and a manual edition. So this is something that the next tool I'm going to show you do very well. So let's jump to our next example. So the next tool I'm going to tell you about is Spacio. So Spacio, I already dedicated a full 1 hour interview with the CEO co-founder. I give you the link at the top of the screen. But now I'm going to show you very quickly what Spacio can do if you didn't see the interview, so that you can compare it with the other tool that I present today. So Spacio is a tool that is designed for architects, but also other architecture professionals to work at early stage of the project, a kind of mix between SketchUp and a BIM software. So it is as flexible as SketchUp to modify the geometry, to work on the mass volume and different hypotheses. And at the same time, it's quite precise relative to what is the building, the floors, the doors, the window. But of course, the windows that you see here on the screen are not the real window. You don't design window by window. You design full volume. And the idea is to be able to modify very easily, very quickly, your volume to adapt to what performance study returns. So for example, this. You can make some study of performance about lighting, about views. And if you notice something that is not the good design in your current approach, you can just make a quick modification, but you can also adapt to the feedback of your client. If you go to a meeting and after your client say, okay, your project is good, but this part of the plot, we have thought another possibilities, I will tell you, and so on. You could really quickly adapt to your project what the feedbacks that you receive from the project. So now we are going to go back directly to the interface of the software. So when you connect, you have access to the list of your project. So good news. Since a few days now, there is a free version of Spacio. When I presented Spacio in the courses I do for architects regularly here in France, the main remark was, yeah, it seems awesome, but it's a bit expensive and I cannot even test. So now it is fixed. You can test for one project. So of course it's limited, but at least you can imagine, you can make your mind if it is adapted to your workflow or not. So now I'm going to go to a given project, which is geographically precisely defined in Lisbon, in Portugal. So here it's a building I already made with Spacio. So I want to show you first the possibilities of edition that we didn't have in Hektar, and that is very very easy to do in Spacio, but also very powerful. So here you see that the plot is not flat. There is a huge hill, some topography. Some topography, and the building is adapting to this topography. So this is quite a good point for Spacio. After, when you select a building, so there is a concept of here I am in a generative mode. I can see it because if I switch, I go to the normal mode, which is the edition mode. And when I go a bit too fast. Here, when I select a roof, for example, I can change the height of the building. So here I have a roof, and I can change the height. If I want to extend the building along this facade, you see, I just have to pull this facade and extend in the dimension I want. If I want to cut the building because I want a different height between these two parts of this building, I just have to make a cut here, and after it's two buildings, and I can change the height here. So you see, it's very flexible. So something else that I want to show about Spacio is the possibility to do some quick performance optimization study, and to have a direct feedback on if our current design is good or not. So here I will choose the view study because I think it's really powerful. So here you see that some part of your building are not optimized for view against terrain. But if I want to see if this apartment have a view on the city, for example, it's another parameter. If I want to see specific part of the view, the sky, for example, maybe the city, for example, it is better than the terrain. And you see, it's a really fine grain. And the idea here is that if you see some problem in your design, even in the middle of a meeting, you can just edit it and make another study on the fly. And this is very useful. So but now, something I want to show you is how the generation works. So to do that, I will just select my building and remove them. Okay, now I select the plot. I click on generative. So I change of mode. So either I am editing, either I am generating. And then I change the density. I could change the site use. I have some further parameter like this. The building spacing, for example, I could look at the parking plot, how much cars I want by apartment, and so on. So you see, it's quite powerful. So it doesn't mean that the final idea will be decided. The final project will be decided by chance only with a single generation. But the idea to me is more to explore the possibilities and maybe have some good ideas. Okay, this is maybe good, but I'm going to edit it by hand. So here, when you want to edit by hand, you just click on generative to just switch mode. Here you have several options. So maybe this option I will raise like this. Okay, this is one of my options. I can go to the stat. I have 17,000 square meter. Okay, so now I go back to another option. So all the project could have several sketches. It's not only one sketches. This is what is quite good because as in Hektar, you can select the one you like, and after you can show to your client different hypotheses. So I think it's a really good tool which has now a free plan, and I think it's awesome to be able to test. But there is something that Spacio don't do already, maybe it will do in the future. It's the possibility to generate some internal plan. So inside of the building, to generate the partitions, the apartment, and so on. And this is something that another tool, so the third tool of this comparison, is doing very well. So let's jump to our third tool for AI plan generation. So here's the moment to show you the last tool of this comparison, which is Finch 3D. And this tool is made also by some architects, some people who were already practicing generative design with Grasshopper and this type of tool, but which had the idea to put this generative power inside a tool which is easy to use for everybody. So now it's available. And Finch can be used also for free. Now the pricing has recently changed, so there is a free plan. So you can test with the demo project. You will not be able to generate like this. And me personally, I don't have neither paid plan, so I cannot show you the generation by myself. But I will show you how the software works. And here you will see you see already with this video how it works roughly. So when I first discovered this type of generation, I didn't really understood what was happening. But now I made some research, and this is called genetic algorithm. So genetic algorithm, it's mimic a bit the way that the life created some better version of itself. So with many generation, we are more and more adapted to our environment. So the same with architecture. The algorithm, so the software is doing several iterations. So all the iterations are displayed here as a point. So every point is a plan that has been generated. So manually, of course, you cannot generate it so much plan. Of course, you have an intuition that allow you to go straight to the point, but this is another technique to design a building, is to design by parameter, by criteria. So, because the second aspect is that you cannot optimize the building on all the parameters. You need to make a choice. So, for example, here you have the daylight optimization, CO2 efficiency, etc. You need to make a choice of what parameter count more on your design. Sorry. Another principle of their design process is to work with what is called the graph. So you see the circle. So the circle represents a space, so a room. So basically, how it works, it calculates the path, the graph that lead from the entrance of the building towards the apartment. So all the room, of course, need to be connected to the other. And after this connection, the surface is being optimized. Then there is another algorithm that generates the detail, the connection, the doors, and so on. So I think it's important to understand how the tool works to better know what it can do and what it can't do. Another aspect that I think very important and very distinctive in Finch, in Spacio it was already the case, but not at this scale of the detailed plan of housing apartment. Is that you can modify, you can edit with just a drag. So like in design software, you could even draw a new partition, a new wall. And I think it's very important that AI combine with edition manual editability, because in my experience, when I use AI tools that promise to do everything in your behalf, generally it fell short, because I think we are heading toward a future where in every domain, not only architecture, the professional is working in par with the AI. So you have the intuition, you have the experience, you have the goal that we have as human, which combine with the power of variations, the possibility to know the best practice, to know the rule. So it's a kind of win-win. And by the way, the when you look at Finch in Google, what they say is optimizing architecture. So they don't see generating architecture. They focus on the optimization, and I think it's very fine from their behalf. So now let's get a view on what is possible in Finch. So I think the interface of Finch is a bit less intuitive than the other the other tools that I show you today. Maybe it's because I didn't use it so much, but at the beginning, I have a bit some difficulties to understand. But now I will explain you. Maybe it will be more intuitive for you, or you will understand better. So basically, there is different scale of working in Finch. You can work about the whole building, the whole volumetry. And this volumetry is not currently designed in Finch. Probably it will change in the future, but now they made the choice to allow people to start the geometry in Revit, in Rhino, because it's the two already existing connection with design software. And the idea is that you start in a Rhino or Revit, and after you import your proposal here, And after you have your programmatic split. So here you see you have all the apartments that you mean to put in that building. You have all the different typology of space. So of course the surface is calculated automatically and in a very clear fashion, not as in the traditional design software. Here you can edit also the program. So here I cannot really edit because I am in the test project, but normally you can edit. So you see that you have different split like that. And it's like a Lego in 3D where you can combine your program, the space that you need to build in that building, to combine it and to put it in the 3D volume of the building. And when you want to go further in detail, you just double click on the stair. And here you have so the 3D representation, so you know on which stair you are. So it's a stair which was already generated, so I cannot just show you the generation, but I can show you that normally it's possible to edit. Now I am on the test project, but what I wanted to tell you is that there is different level of generation. The first one is a combination of apartments. So here it's a bit specific place because so I go back in 3D. Maybe I will choose another apartment. Maybe it's that one. So here, for example, I have two apartments. I have one here, and this is the elevator. So this is the kind of split of floor, and you have basically two choices. One is to draw a circulation to generate. Here it's grayed out, but we see the option. Here you have the option to make unit mix plus stairwell. So it's the case we already have, and another option is to do unit mix plus corridor is when you have a long corridor that disturb many apartments. So it's not our case here, but there is the possibility, and this is already a generation. You start with an empty floor, and after you can ask the algorithm to generate you the more sensible, the more interesting, maybe split with where to place the corridor, where to place the elevator, and so on. Of course, it can be modified by hand. And the second level of generation is when you have the apartment. So you click on one apartment, for example, and here you have the option to generate the apartment. So you can generate it from scratch. You can also generate from your library. And I think this option is quite useful because if you think about it a little bit, generally in an apartment block, we don't make all the apartment different. So we don't want that the AI or the generative algorithm make some small variations that doesn't serve any purpose. We want to typologize our apartment. So the idea is that you can get an apartment from your own design, from the generation, after add it to your design library, and after put it in a place, in the specific place of, for example, this apartment. But if for some reason there is a little difference, for example, let's say that in some cases there is 2 meters less in width, but you want to use the same typology, maybe it's okay. Maybe it's a room which will be smaller or something like this. So it adapts intelligently the design when you place it in something that is smaller, for example, or bigger also. A bit like in layout software. I don't know if you tried with Canva, but with Canvas, which is an equivalent from Photoshop, you can change the width of a document and it will adapt accordingly. So I think this is quite smart. And basically, that is it. So it's not a complete demo. I talk about it in more detail in my courses for architects. So to start to use and to learn AI in IOC, which tool should you use? I think it depends of the stage of the project that you work on. If you work on feasibility only, maybe Hektar is enough for you, and you need to try it if it fits with the type of building you are designing, the type of urban context you work with. If you want to use AI and generative design, not only to generate some possibilities, but also to work on the shape of the building itself, on massing work, and to work a bit like in SketchUp, but with the precision of BIM. I think Spacio is a tool of choice for you. And finally, if you want to work in a more fine-grained fashion, to precisely split the program inside the volumetry that you already define, and you want to use AI to generate plans to help you go faster, but also optimize your current design, I think Finch is a tool that you need to test as well. So thank you very much to have watched this video till the end. You encourage me to continue my mission to democratize AI in the field of AOC. If you want to learn the tools that I consider the best one in the field, please check out my guide in the description. It's free, so don't hesitate. Also, I have an online course of 4 hours to learn AI in IoT from scratch, from the beginning. So that was it for this video. See you in the next video to see how we can save time and design better projects with AI as an architect. Bye bye.